I've been working on the podcast all the livelong day.
Blimey, it's dark down here.
Oh, hi, Matt and Welshie. What brings you down to the old podcast pit?
You said you wanted to see us?
Yeah, we got your LinkedIn private message. What's up?
Oh, that's right. Thanks for coming down. As you guys know, I've been down here in these deep, dark podcast mines for a while now, mining this rich seam of Warhammer podcast.
You mean editing?
Editing. Is that what they call it on the surface world?
What do you want, Stoney? Me and Matt have got to go on a massive important meeting soon.
Well, it's just, my best gal is pregnant, you see, and I was kind of hoping for a couple of episodes off the show so I could support my new family.
You mean me and Welshie do the show on our own and do the stinky editing as well?
It's only a few episodes, boys. Please, my hands are all calloused and war from all this editing.
Okay, Stoney, we'll have a think about it. Now get back to work.
Okay, great, thank you. I've been working on the podcast.
Fuck! Welshie, what are we going to do? Stoney wants time off.
God, I know, Matt, this is bad. I think it's time we initiated Operation Astartes?
Yes, of course. Operation Astartes.
Get me Gilliman on the phone. Stat!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this, the Look Out Sir podcast. Only joking, it's the Large Blast podcast, Alpha Legion edition. I'm your host, Stoney, and I'm joined, as always, by Welshie.
Hydra Dominatus.
And Matt.
I am Alpharius.
And this is the podcast where nothing is as it seems, but we like to get things kicked off with a little something we call Hobbies Goings On, where we take a little look at what the hosts have been doing in their hobby lives. So, Matt, do you want to kick us off with a bit of Hobbies Goings On?
Yeah, I've been painting orcs.
Oh, that's a bit
What?
different.
Yeah, been painting some orcs.
40K
And
orcs?
yeah, 40k orcs and painting some Black Templars.
Oh, painting orcs to go on the base of a Black Templar by any chance.
Yeah.
Is it Bayard's
Yeah.
Revenge you're painting by any chance?
It is. I'm finally getting around to doing the old pile of orcs that we came up with in a previous episode a long time ago. So yeah, I've been painting some orcs and
How many
some
orcs are you aiming
Templars.
for on that base? How many dead orcs?
Well, I've got a collection of loads of arms and bits and skulls and detritus to go on the base, and then I think I've got like 14 orcs that I bought on eBay, and I've just kind of done a quick just overpaint on them to match the dead orc that comes with the Bayard's Revenge model. It's going to be like a slice of a pile of orcs, so the model will kind of infer that the pile is much bigger than that. But there'll going to be enough detritus underneath them that they'll look like there's more than 14. So
Here's
I think
the age-old question. What colour blood are you doing for the orcs?
yeah, that is a well.
And join us for a random topic later in the show where we discuss what colour is orc blood.
that is and I've been thinking about this because it's tempting just to get the blood for the blood god bottle out of the painting rack, but no, I'm gonna do like a dark black, I think.
Nice.
That's what
Isn't
they
it?
used to be. I swear they used to have black blood back in the second edition days, but then I think they had green blood for a while as well, so I don't know.
I think like green blood on green skin just gets like it's just gonna get lost. I'm gonna do it like a black.
I did I do a very dark purple, I think, on the few.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that as well. I've done their eyes are no longer red; they're black, so they're just like blacked eyes.
Nice.
Some of them are still green, as if their eyes are shut. I was thinking like what's this contrast paint? A shyish purple mixed with the Black Templar contrast paint, maybe a mix of both. So it's like a very, very dark purple.
Yeah.
So there's just a bit of color to it, not just black. And also then the black is a different black to the armor on the Templars.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Does it need to be a different
You
color?
also wanted because you also kind of want him to be all covered in blood as well, I guess, because he's he's amongst this big cake of orcs apparently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And his sword is going to need to have a lot of orc blood on it that will not clash with his armor. So anyway, that is a very good point, and one that I have been considering. And yeah, I think I'll do like very dark purple, purpley
Okay.
black.
Nice.
Yeah.
There we go. Leave your orc blood suggestions in the comments, and we'll. By the time Matt hears this, he probably would have finished painting it and have to discard them. But
Yeah.
anyway, Welshie, what have you been up to?
Just continuing ploughing through some of the Leviathan box. So I painted the Winged Prime, which is a great model from that box. The like landing warrior with wings, which is really cool. Nice to do. Loving painting the Tyranids. Continuing on my Hara specs. And I painted a Raven Guard model for the first time in ages in between. So the librarian from the Leviathan box, I did in Raven Guard colors with some glowy bits on the armor, and just stuck a load of raven skulls around it, which has got nothing to do with the lore, but I like it. So that's good.
I think that people like, I hate it when people get hung up with the fact that like everyone's like, oh, Raven Guard shouldn't have Raven stuff because they're just called Raven Guard or whatever. But it's enough. That's enough. Like Raven stuff is cool. Like having like a load of feathers and like, you know, like a Raven skull or whatever. That's pretty fucking cool. We should let the Raven Guard be raveny.
Well, that's what I thought. So I put a big old bird skull on top of his shoulder pad and made it have glowing blue eyes because he is a librarian after all.
Hell yeah.
Channeling the power of the Raven. That's how Raven Guard work, I think. It's in the code.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah. The power of the crow.
Stoney?
The crow team.
Got the crow team. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've had a couple of things. Oh, you know, I've got my ZBrush stuff, which is all basically finished now. I've done lots of tests. I've done a few test prints. They're all print really well. But one of the things is when you bring it into a splicer, which is like this thing that sort of designs what all the layers of the print are going to be like before you put it. So it changes an STL file into like a printable file, basically. And like when you pull it into a splicer, it tells you if it's like a watertight mesh. And just one of the pieces that I've got, it just isn't a watertight mesh, which means there's just a hole, one tiny little hole somewhere in its fucking mesh. And I'm just having a goddamn nightmare trying to find it. It's really annoying. And it prints fine and everything. But some people get really funny about like paying for stuff that has a hole in it. Like they'll be like, oh, then it's not like a professional file.
Like a tiny little like
it's not even like it doesn't. To be honest with you, I don't even know because like I can't even find it like on like everything prints fine. So it's not even like something that you can see. It could be something inside or whatever, because like if you make I mean none of them are hollow, but if you make it so like a model has a trapped pocket of like resin inside, then the model will like split open.
Right.
So you know, so it's like I'm pretty sure that none of them do. I've been like cutting them up and stuff to see if there's any like, you know, they've got like a gooey center or anything like this. There's some like a kind of a Cadbury's caramel or something on the inside, but so far everything has been fine. So I just don't know what it is, but it's really annoying. And yeah, it's just it like, to be honest with you, I could just, you know, and I really just want to like turn my back on these now and just get them out the door. But it's just like it's just really annoying to have this like thing that is wrong with them at this really late stage. So anyway, I'm going to stop being boring about ZBrush now. They'll be out soon. You'll see them in the video for it soon enough.
I want some of those servitors in my hands, Stoney, so I can slap some
yeah.
on them.
It's the news. Wow. It's the chuffing news.
Have you heard? Sixes are now fours.
It's the news.
Gene Stealer Limo's back.
News. Christmas is just on the horizon. Maybe it's not really. It's over a month away, but people are already talking about it. They're already trying to get your money, and Games Workshop is no exception. They've got their Battleforge boxes ready to go, ready to give you a pounding. I know that you wanted to buy that nice gift for your mum this year, but maybe it's time to downgrade her gift and get yourself a Battleforge box from GW. So let's have a look what we've got. We've got some of them lined up in front of us here. They look pretty good.
We've got all of them there. Now, previous years, I bought 2 of these on average a year, I think. Matt, how many Battle Forces roughly
None.
for the last few years? You've never bought one?
No.
We'll start with you then. Do any of these take your fancy?
No.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh, wow, there we go.
News
section over. Well, if you're planning on reading the Gene Father book by Guy Haley, then we're going to do some spoilers for that now, because Welshie has read the Gene Father book and has some pretty exciting lore going on. So I'm going to put a little bit of music behind anything that we're doing that's spoiler related. And just if you tune back in and hear the music, then tune out again.
Boys, this was a good book. So this was a good Black Library book set in 40K. I don't listen to much in 40K setting, but this was really big reveal to the 40K universe. let me just read you some of the things that happen, and then we can discuss where we think some of this is going.
Okay.
First thing, Fabius Bile has got an Iron Man in a box that he's given to the Dark Mechanicus as part of this story.
Okay.
And by
A man
Iron
of
Man, I
iron.
mean Man of Iron, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So Bile's found some AI, and now the Dark Mechanicum have it. Cool has a pet Necron on his ship that he plays chess with. Belisarius Cool is basically a heretic by various standards now of the Mechanicus. He has a Necron on his ship that he plays around with. Not just any Necron, a Chronomancer, trying to find out about timey-wimey things.
Okay.
He admits...
How does he
let's
keep
just
him
talk
in?
about that for now.
Yeah, I mean,
we'll
how
just-
does he keep this guy in check? How does he? Yeah,
It's a
what's going-
her as well,
Okay.
if that changes the way you're imagining this whole scenario going down. But he has a female Chronomancer, or a Necron that identifies as female Chronomancer, imprisoned on his ship, and he lets her have enough like computational power to control little scarabs, and they play like scarab chess by like moving things around. And he just kind of switches her on to have a chat with her and then switches her off again. So he's like really delving into how Necrons work, like really playing with Xenos tech, which is frowned upon. Would you agree, Matt, by Mars?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, he was already a heretic anyway. He, with the other stuff he's done, he's,
Well,
the,
yeah.
you know, that's why he can't be the
Fabricator General.
Fabricator General. Yeah.
And there is a wonderful bit in this book which is relates to the Fabricator General in the next bit. So he's basically admits in this book to not telling Gilliman that the Call Inferior, which is the way he talks to Gilliman's ship, is AI. He's basically admits that it's AI and it's a version of his own personality that has the ability to do machine learning.
Yeah.
So the Call Inferior that he talks to on Gilliman's ship is basically a form of artificial or abominable intelligence.
So listen to our AI episode where we talk about
And
that.
it's developing its own kind of personality and basically mocks him for not wanting to be Fabricator General and seems to be changing the messages between the two ships to kind of imply that he should be Fabricator General, which is mad.
So, but that's like a bit of him as well, isn't it? So he's kind of like, he sort of made like a computer that just bigs him up everywhere. He's got like his own little like...
And his own one. So he's got one in his ship and there's one in Gilliman's. And there's this whole bit where he goes and basically he's having a conversation with himself.
Keeps being like Gilliman, like, give Cool a pay rise, and like all this kind of shit.
Yeah, exactly. So that's mad. We also find out more about how he can just switch on and off his own personalities. So when he needs to do something different, he goes to his personality cupboard, changes his personality, just gets a different type of personality and puts it inside himself, which is mad. But not only has he made a Call Inferior, it also turns out on his ship he has a Gilliman Inferior. So he's attempting to recreate the mind of Gilliman in silicone on his own ship, where he goes, before he sends a message to Gilliman, he goes and chats with the Gilliman AI bot to make sure that what he's sending is going to go down the right way.
Oh, so he does like a little dummy run by his little like...
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
And the Gilliman AI is self-aware that it is an AI, but it is also Gilliman at the same time. And there's just some...
Can't be that happy about that, right?
No, it's not. And that's why he likes using it, because he's like, this is Gilliman in his angriest state. So if it flies with him, it'll be fine. So basically what's going on in this whole book is that Belisarius Cool has arranged a meet-up with loads of Mechanicus leaders that are interested in chronotech, so time travel, essentially. And he's meeting them all on this wonderful disc that we didn't mention last episode when we were talking about massive structures, but there's this like huge flat disc that's floating in space that's got like terraformed, and it's all something to do with the old ones and people. Anyway, he meets all the technomancers there, and he's come up with
flat
this...
Earth.
Yeah, it's like a flat Earth. Yeah, it's basically a flat Earth, okay?
My God.
And he promises all these Mechanicus people that there's loads of archaeotech there, meets up with them, and then tells them his plan to see which ones might help him out and be on his side. And this is where it gets really mad, because rarely in 40k do we get like real life physics sci-fi. His plan for saving the universe is that he's found a Necron tier world that is so close to a black hole that time is moving so slowly because of increased gravity that if they can get there, they might find a live Necron tier or people that are able to explain how the pylons function.
Oh shit! So they're just really they're Necrons, but they just haven't aged because they're just moving so slowly.
Yeah, because
that's
awesome.
gravity
The people
is
before
having such a
Necrons.
distortion on time, or so the Necron tier before the Necrons.
Oh, that's well cool.
So he announces this to this room, and some people it doesn't fly with. There's a representative of the Inquisition there that is very unhappy about
that
all
guy
of this.
went to the wrong fucking meeting. The Inquisition guy is like...
But just the interplay with that is brilliant because the Inquisition guys, he's like holding up his rosette and his like seal of office, and all the leaders of, I think there's the leader of Metallica is there, the leader of Tigris is there, some of the other massive Forge worlds, and they're like, we don't give a shit what you say, we don't care about the Inquisitor. This is like Mechanicus land, shut up.
Yeah.
So that's mental that we might be able to go back and get the Necron tier. And this whole time,
Necrons.
all of this is going on. Fabius Bile is enacting a plan to break onto Belisarius Caul's ship and steal what you think is the Segmentum Primus, which is the gene seed for making Primaris Marines. And he does an old double bluff after a good old man conversation with Caul, and realise that he's not trying to just take the seed from the box. He's trying to take the seed from Alpha Primus, which is Caul's bodyguard and the first Primaris Marine that he made. And the implication is that Primaris Marine has gene seed for all of the legions inside it. Possibly the missing two. Here's the big
Fabius.
spoiler. Fabius Bile gets the seed.
Nice.
So Fabius Bile now has the gene seed for building all legions of Primaris Marines. So that is a massive book. We've got a Man of Iron is now in the hands of the Dark Mechanicus. Belisarius Caul is so much of a heretic, he's made AI himself, AI Gilliman, and chats with a Cryptek. And Fabius Bile has the means for building Chaos Primaris Marines and making Games Workshop loads of money.
That is
That's
a lot of stuff.
in one book.
That is a lot,
Considering,
yeah.
like, a lot of
I don't know, I mean,
books don't really move the story forward.
I've kind of heard lukewarm things about this book, but I think a lot of that we've kind of heard before. It's classic. It's classic Games Workshop modern lore.
It's about Games Workshop
just like-
confirming things, though, isn't it? That's always the
No,
thing.
because it's all been in
Yeah.
books. It's been in books before.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah,
Bile's got the gene seed.
No, Bile's got the gene seed as a new thing. Bile got the gene, but everything else has kind of been in books before.
Caul's got a Necron on his ship. That's not been in a book.
Yeah, no, but
But that's two
I
of
don't
the
know.
4 big things. The
Yeah.
Necron tier possibly still being alive near a black hole. That's not been in a book. These are massive. You're very lukewarm this evening, Matthew.
the hang on.
This
It's
is
very
the
hard to
No,
impress
that's
this young
a
man.
theory. Games Workshop haven't said that the Necron tier is by a black hole. We predicted that the new Xenos race could be the Necron tier in a while ago, so that would be quite interesting. That could open that avenue up.
I just thought it was great. I think go and listen to this book. If you skip to this point and you've missed all the spoilers, go and listen to it. Even if you've read the spoilers, listen to it, because some of the dialogue between these two is just great. Caul talking to himself is wonderfully written. There's a load of stuff where there's like Imperial Knights fighting that I just couldn't care less about. But the main story points on this really are quite fun. And then at the end it's quite sad because a lot of it is also Caul trying to bring his mate back to life over and over again. And also the only reason Bile gets away is because Caul sees Primus as his son. Like he has a choice between killing Primus and killing Bile, and he lets Bile go. And then he turns to him and he's like, "You are my son." Which is kind of like weird for such a mechanical man.
It does kind of seem sad. A lot of this does seem like Cole's pretty lonely, and he keeps having to make new friends out of random things that he finds lying around.
He
10,000
is
years being the smartest man in the room's got to take its toll.
He's the best. All of the stuff with Colin is really good. He's the best new character that Games Workshop have pulled out of their arse for a long time to come out with a model and to make up. Because when you listen to the books that he's in, his character has depth and he's kind of funny, and you do kind of feel human emotions towards him, which is sometimes rare with other characters.
Absolutely. Well, let's see where it goes from here. I hope to get another Haley book about one of these two.
Tournament news, balancing issues. Are they still there? Have they been resolved? Well, it kind of started to look like a lot of the balancing issues have been resolved.
Yeah, I think so. This is the latest Meta Watch article that they put on Warhammer Community, and I think it's the closest everything to 50% we've seen since they started trying to keep track of this. Eldar are still winning the most games, but 57% at the top and 44% win rate at the very bottom. That is the tightest we've ever seen, which is a shame because there's like 20 codices to come out and ruin it. But right now it seems to be good.
How many? So the Space Marine, is the Space Marine and the Tyranid Codex out now? They're not out yet.
Yeah,
they are out.
They're out.
Oh.
They're out. And next up,
Admech.
Necrons and Admech.
Admech, yeah.
Which is interesting because Space Marines and Tyranids, they're right in the middle of the pack. So those two haven't shot straight to the top like they sometimes do. Hopefully they are going to be able to hit that midpoint. And it's nice to see Dark Eldar, Blood Angels, Custodes at the bottom after being at the top for so long. I do like it when it switches. Like, that's better than slowly dropping one by one down the rankings. When everything mixes up, it's good. Because if you only have one army, it's nice to be able to play it. But even then, it seems like even if you're at the bottom, you've got a good chance of winning. So well done, Games Workshop. We don't always give you lots of praise, but I think that's pretty well done.
Well done, Games Workshop. You're right. Let's all just take 5 minutes to give Games Workshop the praise they deserve. Well done, Games Workshop. From us here at the Large Blast Podcast Studios, we doff our cap to you for getting this tournament scene in some kind of order.
Rolling in my 6-4.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Lord Gilliman. I'll see to it now.
Well, what did he say?
Oh, it's worse than we feared, Matt. He wants us to initiate Operation Goon Swap.
You don't mean?
I'm afraid I do, Matt. We're to initiate our secret objective to recruit Stoney to the Ultramarines faction and send him to the future to be used as cannon fodder in the upcoming war against the Tau. In exchange, he promises to give us a laptop with Audacity free trial, a snowball mic, and some pre-installed Catachan porn so we can keep the podcast going.
Okay. I mean, that sounds fair.
He also said something about you prank calling him with heavy breathing and vulgar jokes.
No. Anyway, how are we supposed to get Stoney to the future?
Well, as a scientist, I've had a time machine at work, which only super scientists are allowed to use. We could try to lure him into that and send him to the grimdark future.
But how on earth are we going to do that?
Well, I think I have just the thing. This!
But that's just a book on how aliens invented the iPhone. Stoney already has that.
No, Matt, take a closer look.
My God! Is that the book on how aliens invented the iPhone made of weed?
That's right, Matt. It's the most irresistible item Stoney could ever want, and it's just what we need to lure him into a trap.
So, Space Marines are either loyal and good, or bad and chaos, or are the chaos ones good and the loyal ones bad? Who the fuck knows? Does the Alpha Legion know? They are the true grey area of the Space Marines. What are they up to? Who knows? Not even a lot of the Alpha Legion. We don't really know, and we've been looking at them for the last couple of weeks or whatever. So, what do we think? Alpha Legion, shall we try to get some kind of a chronological order of what's going on with the Alpha Legion and their Primarchs, Alphas and Omegon? Alpharius and Omegon.
Yeah, why not? Because that's a good place to start, right? Where does it all start? That's got to be an easy answer. Straightforward.
Yeah. Super straightforward, right?
Super straightforward. So, Alpharius, the very last 20th Primarch to be discovered, right?
Wrong.
That
sounds
potentially, according to Alpharius. For years and years and years, I think for all ancient lore of us growing up, they were always the 20th Legion, and he was always the last to be discovered until the Alpharius book was released, which is told from his point of view, we must say, where, spoiler alert, he states that he was actually the first to be discovered. He is the Alpha and existed before any of the other Primarchs and has kind of watched them all be discovered. So that's the first sticking point we've got to talk about. Like, which way is cooler?
What's quite interesting as well is he was stolen like the other. Well, this is what I heard anyway. Was that he was stolen like all his gene seed cube or whatever it was, left like everybody else's, but it just then re-crash landed on Earth. Like it wasn't like a one of these other ones where it disappeared off to somewhere else. It still disappeared, but it just crashed in the mountains or something.
Well, he was definitely discovered on Terra by the Emperor, and I've heard that he might have been discovered in like under his bed, almost as if he didn't send him away at all.
Oh my god! He did. What was the name of that girl that woman that pretended her girl went missing? What's her name? She was
McCann.
Not Madeleine McCann. No, there was another one after
the one.
Sharon
Matthews.
It's like Shannon Matthews.
Yeah.
He's Shannon Matthews Alphas. He wanted the sympathy. He was like, "Oh, she's gone," or whatever.
The Emperor was
GoFundMe.
Yeah, the Emperor was doing a press conference.
He was, yeah.
So yeah, but either way, whether he was first or last, he was discovered at some point. And prior to that, or whilst he existed, there was an Alpha Legion that were doing dastardly deeds around the galaxy that were just referred to as Alpha. For some reason, when they made the Legion, the Emperor limited it to between 1,000 and 2,000 legionaries and didn't let anyone make any more. And how they were made is all kept completely secret from everything else. So that's like another point of why did he limit this Legion? Are there more of them hidden around, like in sleeper cells, than anyone knows? Was there a problem with the gene seed? Like, why are there so few of them in the first place?
Well, I heard something quite interesting where, like, because the Alpha Legion, they're not so much into like going down to the surface and like shooting bolters and stuff. They like to kind of like unseat local powers and sort of weaken a world or whatever. That actually quite a lot of their recruits are just straight up humans. That they're not like that they just have people that they use to like just go and do stuff.
They call them operatives.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, very original, I know. They do have loads of people and operatives, that's for sure. But it would be cool if they had some kind of weird gene seed. Like, what if they had like a Hydra head? What if he'd made like more than 2,000, they would literally be Hydras and you could chop their heads off and they'd grow back too. That'd be
Yeah.
But as you say there, Stoney, they don't like kind of going down and fighting on a front line. They're the kings of assassination, subterfuge, espionage, sabotage, and artifact recovery. So they're doing everything slinking in the shadows. And it's ages before even the other Primarchs even know they exist. There's all these rumors of stuff happening and they keep being referred to as the Ghost Legion. That's just what they're referred to. A bit like, I suppose, like Legion of the Damned, like kind of popping up, doing shit and disappearing, and no one really has any evidence that they were there, which is cool. Until they get to this like massive attack that they do called the Harrowing, where they basically just wipe out a whole planet by attacking everywhere instantaneously at the same time. And it's pretty mad. And that doesn't go unnoticed. And Alpharius then has to go and reveal himself to the Lion, who he likes, apparently, because he's a bit kind of sneaky. He's not straight-edged like Gilliman or any of that lot. He finds him a kind of dark and interesting character.
Well, is it not because, I mean, this is where we get a little bit of a deviation in the news that we've collected, I guess, because Alpharius, he sort of says in the book that Omegon does get scattered, right? So he's got a twin brother, Alpharius.
Right, that's something we should mention. He's got a twin brother.
He's got a twin brother, Omegon, who he says in the book, so he's raised on Terra by Malcador and the Emperor, is what he says in Alpharius. I believe that I haven't read it, but this is what I was...
Yeah, and Valdor knows as well, because he says that he's used by Valdor to test the defenses on the Imperial Palace.
Oh, that's right. And he's the reason why they create the blood games, because he discovers like a hole in the defenses or something like that.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
like they say, like, oh, you know, we're not going to tell anyone about you. You're going to be like a super secret man kind of thing, and that the Emperor is known, and that Malcador is known, and all these guys are known, and that they're specifically going to keep him as like a nameless person. They tell him like his name is just a tool to sort of summon him by, kind of thing. But he basically realizes that Omegon is out there, and he thinks that nobody else knows about Omegon. So he goes and picks up Omegon at some stage. I again don't really know the details of this, but at some stage, him and Omegon team up, and Omegon's living on some kind of world full of big monsters, Hydra monsters, and him and Alpharius kind of have a big old like team together, and they're like, with our powers combined, finally we can slay all these big monsters, and they like, you know, kind of fucking have a good old time running around the planet, like
absolutely.
kind of killing things. But like, what I heard was that the kind of flaw in their gene seed is arrogance. And that's really the thing good. That like Alpharius really kind of suffers from is kind of arrogance, because he really believes that he's the only person that has Omegon, knows about Omegon and stuff. And Alpharius is quite an interesting character because he's quite small, isn't he, for a Primarch? So he can kind of like he can kind of trick people into thinking he's a normal person, which is a really bizarre thing, because he has kind of lived a normal person's life to some extent. Like he's been out and kind of like gathered information on the world of terror and stuff, which all the other Primarchs haven't done.
He could also trick you that his Horus Heresy miniature is the same size as the other ones because it costs the same despite being smaller.
Is it actually smaller?
Yeah.
The ultimate deception.
Yeah.
There you go. But what I also thought was quite cool, and I don't know if this is the same for Alpharius as well. I think this is the same for both Omegon and Alpharius. Like if a Space Marine drinks some of their blood, then they turn into like a kind of a hench, but like big Space Marine, like big enough to disguise themselves as either Omegon or Alpharius. But the problem is it also gives them access to their memories. So they don't like a lot of the time if they do this,
they have to kill him afterwards.
A lot of the time they don't make it back from their mission when this guy goes.
That's pretty sweet. But what you're saying there about the arrogance, I guess, leans into the fact that they then, Alpharius particularly, becomes like a proper loner. Like he really shuns all of the tactics of his brothers. He doesn't really like hanging out with any of them or seeing any of them. He doesn't mind Horus. Like they have fights with, and these are just the fights. Like this is like pre-heresy. They have dust up with the Iron Fists, the Ultramarines, the Death Guard. Kurz hates them. He calls them sinners hidden in a web of flies. But they do kind of get on all right with the Space Wolves, the Dark Angels, and the Salamanders, because they're all a bit odd. Like he quite likes the kind of outcast guys that are all formed a bit differently from straight up things.
Well, does he at one stage, but when they're still unknown to other Space Marines, I thought that he revealed himself to Horus first of all, because there's this point,
sounds familiar.
There's this point in the lore where Omegon and Alpharius could have done the old switcheroo, where basically Alpharius goes to Omegon, hey, we need to like reveal ourselves to the rest of the universe because of the harrowing or whatever it was called. Like, wouldn't it be funny if you went and basically attacked Horus? So Omegon goes and kind of does like a surprise attack on Horus, kind of like a, hey, it's me, whatever, kind of, I don't know. They obviously haven't spent a lot of time around other people or whatever and think this is a good way of like introducing yourself. So and like and him and Horus have a fight, but all the time that like, because he thinks that he's going to go and be Omegon, but he goes and says that he's Alpharius. And there's this point there where like it could be that Alpharius decides to become Omegon and Omegon becomes Alpharius. So this is right before they've even started. This is their first introduction to the rest of the guys, and they're already kind of doing the old double bluff.
Yeah.
But the deviousness comes in later with like back and forth between Horus as well, and like what they do in the events of the Horus Heresy. But I think we need to mention the Cabal.
Oh, yes.
Because the Cabal is what makes the Alpha Legion the Alpha Legion. And the Cabal are a shady group of individuals, mixed Xenos, that you can find very little about, other than all I could find was they're mixed Xenos, they're ancient. There's one that's made of metal, There's one that's made of pure energy. There's a feathery one, a scaly one, an Eldar one, and maybe a human one. And they're this kind of conglomerate that essentially they believe in this thing called acuity. And they believe there's only two outcomes. So this is prior to Horus actually revolting. There's two outcomes that can happen. Either the Emperor wins, and there's 10 to 20,000 years of decay of the Imperium before it's utterly consumed by chaos. Or Horus wins, and within 2 generations, humanity has torn itself apart. And the instant death of humanity causes chaos to die with it, because chaos feeds on humanity. And therefore, the other races are able to survive because the galaxy doesn't fall to pieces. So this is the options that are presented to Alpharius through nefarious means initially, but then Alpharius finds the Cabal and talks to them from a position of strength. But they say, we want you to ensure Horus wins, because it's the only way to ensure chaos is destroyed, because the outcome of Horus winning is everything falls apart. So that's the option that Alpharius is given.
Well, I think this is really interesting as well, because again, this is whoever it is, either Alpharius or Omegon, whatever, they start to disagree on this, right? At this point,
I think this does start to be a bit of a fallout.
This seems to be like an obvious place where a kind of split like that might happen. And again, Alpharius, let's just call him Alpharius for the sake of this, kind of his sort of arrogance is kind of thinking he would know what the Emperor wants, and that he thinks that the Emperor wants the destruction of chaos at all costs, whereas Omegon kind of believes that what the Emperor wants is the sort of proliferation of mankind, more kind of thing. So Alpharius decides to join Horus so that he can, so basically to destroy all human life, so that eventually these cool aliens can come in and like take everything back over again and make some kind of alien utopia without stinky mankind.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But that's Omegon, the truth, by the way. That's the truth.
Yeah, I think that is the truth. Yeah, and then
I would have picked, if I was Alpharius, I would have picked his answer.
But it seems like Omegon wants to create like a kind of a third path to try to to kind of basically kind of make the prophecy not true, essentially, by playing both sides against each other, kind of invalidating the prophecy is kind of his plan.
Well, I think that's kind of the way that it goes. I don't know if he wants to do that. I think the overall impact of Alpharius, Omegon, both going about things their own way, is that it is a near stalemate. I think everything Alpharius does to make Horus win, it's like Omegon acts simultaneously to make Horus lose.
Yeah.
And they actually end up not being effective at either thing.
Yeah.
For example, the Emperor sends the Alpha Legion to Istvan V to destroy the Loyalists, but the Alpha Legion then turn on the Loyalists, but then they kill the World Eaters so that the Raven Guard can escape with Korax. But what they've secretly done, allowing the Raven Guard to escape, is they've stitched Raven Guard faces to themselves and infiltrated the Raven Guard. And that's just like a classic example of the flip-flop between what's going on. And you don't know who's ordering either of those things, whether it's Alpharius, whether it's Omegon, whether it's the Emperor, whether it's Horus. It's like...
Well, we talked a bit about the Gene Seed stuff, I mean, earlier with that Gene Father book. And they're after that, aren't they? Because Korax gets access, basically. Like the Emperor's like, all right, you lost a bunch of guys, I'll give you the secret recipe. I'm going to give you the Colonel's secret recipe to making you some Kentucky Fried Space Marines, baby. Korax goes and gets that, and he's like, oh, good, we finally got the files. Here, you look after this, Captain Human, non-suspicious Alpha Legion looking kind of dude. Here you go, take this and look after it. And they steal it, and now they've got that, right?
So that's the outcome of their infiltration of
that.
But then the really strange thing is they're supposed to give that to Horus. They're supposed to go and give the Colonel's secret recipe to Horus, right?
Yeah.
And they
is that the Raven Project?
It's the thing that results in
called?
Raptors. So when you see the Raptors,
the Raptor Project.
But he's supposed to go and give that to Horus, right? But in the end, they end up making up their own kind of like Wish.com version of it, which they give to Horus. So then, and Fabius Bile looks at this and like, this is some bullshit. Meanwhile, the Alpha Legion have cruised off and they've got this now and they're just going to do who knows what with it. So
yeah, they're definitely not working for just Horus or just the Emperor. Like another bit they do, Horus sends them to recruit the White Scars. So this is before Jagatai Khan is aware that Horus has turned on the Emperor. Horus sends the Alpha Legion to recruit the White Scars. The Alpha Legion find the White Scars and then just delay them for so long that Dawn is able to get a message through to Jagatai Khan to tell them that Horus is turned, and then they just fuck off. That's like they're literally just like being annoying, poking people in the eye, even to the extent there's an Alpha Legion post that holds the planet that is blocking the signal between Terra and the White Scars. And then an Alpha Legion team destroys the Alpha Legion outpost blocking the signal in order to allow the signal through so that the Khan can work out what's going on.
Yeah. But I think as well, like no one really knows how big the Legion is, do they? So I mean, it's this weird.
No.
And also, one of the things it's worth mentioning as well is for the most part, if you're in the Alpha Legion, it's just like a Space Marine. You know almost less than anybody else because you're literally just kind of obeying orders. Like most of the, like when they were told they were turning to chaos and following Horus and stuff, like most of the Alpha Legion guys weren't privy to any of this, like the Cabal or any of this kind of shit. So they're just like, oh, we're turning to chaos then, you know. So like 90% of the Alpha Legion are just straight up chaos worshippers because, you know, they haven't had the information to kind of know really what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that all kind of comes to a head with some of the Alpha Legion characters, which there are very few of. Like I think most people can name a character from most of the legions, but I couldn't have just named a character outside of the Primarchs for the Alpha Legion.
They're all called Alpharius.
It does make it easier, doesn't it? But there are a few now. And a big thing that I think we're going to see concluded in the Siege of Terra, because Dan Abnett wrote Legion, which is the real spy thriller Alpha Legion book that's quite early on in the series. And Legion is where John Grammaticus first turns up, who's the fella that's kind of weaved in and out through the whole of the Horus Heresy series, which is now leading a bunch of perpetuals to the throne room. And last we saw him having a chat with Vulcan at the bottom of the throne. And as he's infiltrating the throne room, he used to work for the Cabal, but then a big thing that changed with the Cabal is Eldrad Ulthran turns up and says, actually, that 2 options you were told is bullshit. If the Emperor wins, it's actually going to be all right. So that really throws a spanner in the works. So you've got this John Grammaticus character who's torn between now 3 options, A, B, or A, another. And as he's infiltrating the Imperial Palace, he stumbles upon a legionary that wakes up and calls himself Alpharius. And these Alpha Legion legionaries have been hidden under the Imperial Palace for like millennia. And they've been mind controlled. So it's not that they don't know what's happening. They physically are controlled by words. Like words are shot into their earbud and they start doing stuff. They're like robots. They don't even have any agency. They've been like brainwashed to doing stuff. So it's beyond even a misunderstanding. They're mind controlled, a lot of the Alpha Legion legionaries.
Yeah,
so I don't know where that's going to go. That's mad.
Yeah, yeah. Like, who knows what he could have been up to outside of the Emperor's eye? Although it does also kind of seem like the Emperor knows more about the Alpha Legion than he lets on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but one of the things that shows that, like, when Alpharius is being all like, I've found Omegon and no one else knows about him, there's a part where Malkador and the Emperor are playing one of their chess game things. Yeah. He has an Omegon piece on his chessboard, so he's just like, oh yeah, well, I know about him, he's just there or whatever.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, of course I know, I'm the Emperor. But what does he know about the Cabal? Maybe he's the human man.
I think he is.
Oh my god,
he's got to be. He's got to be in the Cabal. Yeah, he's a perpetual as well. After all, there's definitely going to be some sort of, the Alpha Legion will be written into the conclusion of the Siege of Terror. I mean, somehow, won't they? We've spoken about John Grammaticus before. I can't remember when.
he's got to be important because he's Dan Abnett's creation, right?
Yeah,
He's not going to go nowhere. He also has a nuncio now, which we know Dabnett set up as a big thing in 40K. This like unmaking speech. So he's probably the most informed human in the galaxy, John Grammaticus, in that he knows of the existence of everything really and all fate options.
What if he is the emperor?
Grammaticus. No,
they can't all just be the emperor. That can't be the twist to everything.
It could be. I mean, I was thinking like what you were saying. Just what I thought the other day. What if Alpharius was the emperor? But that could be too far fetched. But he is a prime. He's the only Primarch to grow up on Terra, and for all we know, he may have had the childhood that the emperor had planned for all of them. The emperor is definitely going to be fully up to speed with what's going on. Some would say potentially it's all part of the emperor's plan. What is happening for 10,000 years with the Alpha Legion?
I think that question comes down to the Cabal, though, doesn't it? If that's been influenced by the emperor or not.
But there is something kind of weird about them. Like you said about their numbers being lower, they're larger than most of the other legions.
But
in
also
physical size, so they're kind of weird.
They've got this Colonel secret recipe for making the Primaris Marines or whatever. What are they? Maybe they're making more Marines now. I mean, they're the only ones that seem to have that. They definitely had it before other people did, and they're just kind of even before Chaos, who they were supposed to be getting it for, and they just sat on it.
It said in the reading that I'd done that the Imperium had officially declared the Alpha Legion extinct 4 times.
3 times. 4 times. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because they on one hand seem to be like, they've got all this knowledge and everything, and that there's a good chance that if they were the first true legion, then Alpharius was also, if Omega was the one that they like revealed to the world and Alpharius was the first one and just sat there, then he had time to kind of like properly get to like really infiltrate all these other chapters before like he was even discovered.
I mean, that's that's kind of, I imagined him. I think I read somewhere that he was actually there when the Emperor met some of the other Primarchs. So when the Emperor's ship, the massive golden ship, comes into the planet's orbit and the atmosphere of these worlds where the Primarchs have been generally fighting for their lives and taken over their newfound home worlds and have risen through their societies, the Emperor arrives. But actually, one of the Space Marines behind the Emperor or near the Emperor is actually Alpharius, and he's there. And from day one of that Primarch meeting the Emperor, Alpharius is there in the background, infiltrating the new Primarch's protection and creating opportunities, doorways for him to infiltrate the new Legion when the Legion meets their Primarch, and that he's there from day one, like hundreds of years before the Horus Heresy.
There's bits in that Mike Brooks book, Alpharius. There's some wonderful descriptions where he describes like seeing the Primarchs for the first time and being like, "Oh, those didn't think much of that guy. He looks a bit.
He looks like a dog."
Like,
yeah. But I mean, it is funny that they are like this legion that on one hand could have just this kind of almost unlimited power in some ways. They've got all this knowledge and everything, but like we've said before, everything they seem to do seems to be like kind of like eternally bogged down by some kind of infighting, and it always just seems to almost end up as kind of like a neutral action where they like, one person goes and cuts the power and then the other one comes and puts the power back on. It's kind of like
that's so true. When the idea of all of these plans within plans within plans that have been going on for hundreds of years, like who's to say that all of their plans just counteract each other by accident and not even on purpose. Forget about the on purpose bit, but like, is that not also, I mean, is there not also someone else who we know who likes to make stupidly complicated plans that don't always seem to go anywhere? I mean, are they just like a big teachy legion, maybe?
Maybe,
who knows?
But even like Alpharius's death in quotation marks is like that. So
Yeah.
Alpharius leads the Solar War. He's the kind of head of the breach into the Sol system, and fights at the Battle of Pluto, where he's killed by Dawn, as far as you're aware. And then Omegon takes his place as like official head. But then Alpharius pops up to give Horus a map of all of the defenses in the system in like another book that's not quite clear whether it's chronologically ahead or behind the other one. So even in death, they're doing different opposite things. If the Alpharius that pops up to Horus then is actually Omegon, then he switched sides again.
Well, absolutely. And then there's the thing where it's like, well, if they did do the old name swap in the first place, like all those years ago, then was it really all Omegon the whole time, kind of thing? And like, it's and then Alpharius just became Alpharius again at the end.
What's the chapter? Not the chapter. What's the Legion symbol of?
It's a Hydra.
It's with a. But isn't there 3 heads?
Yeah, so that's the other thing that someone says. There's a third. There's
a third
triplet.
head. Yeah,
I've definitely read that before.
Yeah,
there's a third one.
I didn't do any reading into the theories, but I remember I've read into the theories before. Yeah, about how there's a third one.
I don't believe that. I think that's just because the symbol would look shit with 2 heads.
I don't know. I mean, the chess game, Stoney, that you mentioned about where the Emperor is like in his mind or in the warp playing with Malkador the Sigillite. He can't remember if he names or if he acknowledges the 2 twins, but he doesn't say there's 3. That's what I'm getting at. So
and there's 20 pieces,
potentially,
right? So.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think there could be something in that. Like, what if the difference between them and the other Primarchs is, I don't know. What if the third one is Malkador the Sigillite, or the Emperor or something? I don't know. Or the Thunder Warriors.
Kind of interesting, and maybe we're definitely delving into theories here. But like, one of the things that they are sort of reading about Alpharius is he was basically Alpharius from the moment that he was born. Like when he awoke from his like gene seed thing and stuff. Like, well, some of his first things when they come and meet him, he says, "I am Alpharius." He drops the big lines really early. Like, but he kind of like awakens and knows that he's got to be all kind of secretive and like, all the rest of it kind of thing.
Yeah, like he's preloaded, whereas all the other ones are affected by their environment.
Maybe there is no Alpharius, and the way that he can like give his blood to make people a bit more Alpharius-y. Maybe Alpharius is kind of like a programming, like a kind of a Manchurian Candidate style thing where he's got him.
That's quite interesting. Yeah,
that's cool. It is just the sleeper cell. They are actually all Alpharius.
Yeah.
It's not just a metaphor. They are all as strong as each other. And that's why there's so few of them, because the gene seed had to split between them.
Yeah.
That's quite cool.
Yeah.
So in terms of where Alpharius is now, I guess, after he gives Horus the map as to how to defeat the defenses, he just fucks off with the whole Legion. In classic Alf, he doesn't help. He goes off and he harries Guilliman's attempt to get into the Siege of Terror, but they're not involved in the Siege of Terror.
Another thing with the Alpharius Omegon split, because like going down to it's Pluto, isn't it, where he has the fight? Yeah, so he's going to Pluto, and Omegon is kind of there as well when Alpharius starts to like go down onto the surface, but Omegon just fucks off again, like leaving just Alpharius to go down there. And there is the kind of Rogel Dawn didn't really know that Alpharius and Omegon were 2 different people and like all this, and actually maybe if both of them had got the jump on Rogel Dawn, maybe Alpharius could have won that fight and Omegon left him to die, is like a kind of another thing that people sort of talk about. But again, Alpharius was just kind of too arrogant and thought that maybe he could actually just go down and beat Rogel Dawn on his own or whatever. But
he should have known, especially he is like physically smaller. Like I know he can fight, but he's not the same.
Yeah, but he did the old. They were the double team. They were the you bend down behind him, I'll push him over. Like they were like the double act.
The Hardy brothers is how I like to imagine.
Did a lot of off the rope type spinning shit.
Well, that's their strength. That's their strength. The bottom line is that there's 2 of them, and that they like to fight from far away. Long-term strategy, not close combat without one brother. They need to be together.
There's one bit where they fall out with the brothers. They really piss everybody off because they're about to take a planet to heal, and it would have been really easy. They could have just landed and done it in a day, but they thought it was too easy, so they let the enemy get fully dug in so that they could take it out from the inside. They literally just waited and gave them all the time they needed to prepare positions so that they could take them out from the inside. And they apparently killed 90% of the people on this planet doing this. And everyone else was like, that was just stupid. Why did you do that? They were like, it was too easy. The other way was too easy. So that arrogance again is maybe
they do make some baffling decisions.
Maybe if they think they're better than everyone else, then making too many of them was a bad idea. That could be the reason there's only 2,000. If you made a whole legion that thought they could take everyone, that's got to be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, all saying they're the same person. Yeah.
But it's also
what was the deal, just before we get too far away from it, with all the alien stuff that they have and things? Because obviously the Kabul is like a it's like a thing, but it's does the planet that Omegon ends up on, I don't know, there's some connection with alien stuff there, isn't there?
Isn't he like enslaved?
Yeah, I don't know too much about.
Well, rumored about enslaved.
Yeah, something like
that. But the emperor has to spend 10 years like cleansing his mind, something like that, where he's been on this planet for too long and enslaved by these horrible disgusting Xenos. That's the only bit that I read about.
Because they've got a lot of both Alpharius and Omegon, they've got some like pretty high tech Xenos shit, don't they? Like their
his main weapon. His main weapon is Xenos, supposedly.
They've got the weird spear as well, haven't they? And their armor is like all camouflagey. I didn't read too much into their what toys they have beyond just being sneaky bastards. But the other thing about the Cabal prophecy is that like it's all obsessed with the first and the last, or the youngest and the oldest, which they see as Horus and Alpharius. But Alpha Omega, come on, like surely that lends credence to it. If the prophecy is first and last, and you've got one dude called Alpharius and one dude called Omegon, then those are the two you want to be looking at, Cabal. You know, that's what bring in the beginning and the end. Like,
so you mean
just the symbology of the Alpha and the Omega.
So you mean that actually Alpharius swapped with Horus, and
not that he swapped with Horus, just that he was definitely first.
And what if that's going to be in the book? Alpharius swaps places with Horus, and then Alpharius is killed, and Horus goes free, and Horus is still alive.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I think that's going to happen.
But what I do like as an idea is that because there's lots of run-ins between the Alpha Legion and the Ultramarines, what if Gilliman is Alpharius? Current day Gilliman.
There are more podcasts on YouTube than there are stars in the night sky.
It's a disease, a virus that's infecting the mind of the most insecure and insufferable people of all time.
It blows my mind, but I've never seen insecurity projected quite like what I'm about to show you today. The only thing more pathetic than a guy who calls himself an Alpha Legion
is a guy who calls himself an Alpha Legion and then telling a story that is completely made up.
I am Alpharius.
I am Alpharius.
Alpharius.
Just obviously fiction. He is literally making up fanfic.
Claim to be Alpha Legion.
Even though they themselves are the clowns in their own circus, they're making themselves look fucking stupid.
So I'm still shocked that he hasn't scrubbed this podcast episode from the entire cyberspace, just wiped it from the internet.
So you know what time it is. It's the random topic generator, the segment we do from time to time sometimes. But Welshie, you have the company dice, which I believe we're going to use to generate a random...
now. And would you believe it? And it's got nothing to do with my newfound love of them. The random topic is, if you had to join an Aeldari aspect warrior cast, which ones would you join? So we're talking like striking scorpions, warp spiders,
howling banshees,
the guys on the bikes, the howling banshees. You know the special cool looking Eldar things, the best models.
Okay. Cool. Well, this is quite cool. They've got some cool ones. They've got the warp spiders. I remember they were quite good. They jump in and out of the warp, and they've got cool guns that like shoot spider webs on people that kind of like kind of constricts them.
They've got those
They had-
fishnet tights as well.
They had
They got
new
cool
models, didn't they?
fishnets.
Did they have new models last year?
I don't think so.
I think they wrote them
the
out on the
Howling Banshees
walls.
did.
Oh.
I think they might have got rid of the warp spiders.
Really?
Even.
But they're
I can't
classic.
remember.
Ah.
They are
No,
great
they're
ones.
still in the rules. They
Are
are.
they?
Yeah, they're still
Oh,
there.
okay. Because they've got like a special character, like a lord, who was always
all
kind of cool.
do.
And he's got like his arms up. Remember, they've got the 4 arms.
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
lord guy's like, "Rah, fuck
Yeah.
you."
Well, I'll come out with mine. I'm going to say the Howling Banshees. I've always I thought the models were always
Be
cool.
with the girls.
Yeah, and there's the trailer for Dawn of War 3 is very good, where it's a dark night and the Space Marine scouts are moving through the jungle into a clearing as they hear the Howling Banshee scream and leap over the rhino and cut them all to shit. And it's really great. The scream that comes out of their masks with their long swords. So yeah, I'll go with that.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Backflips.
You do wonder why
and
they
long
don't
swords.
like combine some of these weapons together, because you feel like, oh, if you've just got something that means like you shout and it can do damage, why don't you just stick that in all of them? Why have you got like how does like being a howling
Yeah,
banshee like, oh, you're someone who can shout really loud? Like what makes you like, you know, like different from another Eldar thing, except you've got the thing that like makes your shouts into like a weapon.
Yeah. The striking scorpions have got the funny mouthpiece thing that fires stuff as well on the sides of their helmet.
Yeah, they
That's
do.
the
There's a
thing.
really cool piece of Eldar artwork where someone's like one of them's wrestling a Tyranid and those little things are shooting him.
This is a dark day. The three of us have all said how
We're
some
saying good
Eldar
things
stuff's
about
really
Eldar.
cool. Oh,
Don't worry,
really?
These are cool. That's how I've got you. I've got you hooked. We've
We've been
mentioned
infiltrated. We've been Alpha
Oh,
Legion by
yeah,
the goddamn Eldars.
It's interesting that we've all picked the kind of like weird, bright coloured, least Eldar looking stuff though, because the other ones are the Dire Avengers, who are the blue guys with the massive helmets with the plume on. You've got the Fire Dragons, who are they're bright
quite
bright
cool.
orange. The Fire
They've
Dragons
got like a
with
big long
melters.
stick flamethrower as well, which is quite cool.
Yeah,
But I always figured like being the flame guy was like, you know, you're good in certain situations, but you're a bit stuck in like a lot of other ones.
yeah, that's true.
You don't want a box of fuel on your back.
That's the
Wherever
other
they
thing. Is
keep
you're
them.
just carrying around all the fuel there. I mean,
Would
you're always
you want
quite...
to be part of the Dark Reapers though? They always seem pretty down.
That's true. They're the emo guys, long
Super
distance
emo.
emos.
They have a great name though. Anything called Reapers is
All right, if you were going to be in a band, what band would you like to be in? The Striking Scorpions, the
Howling
Dark
Banshees.
Reapers, or the
Yeah.
Howling Banshees? Then that would be different. I still feel, I don't know, man. I still feel like maybe I'm going to go with the Striking Scorpions are cool, though. They are very good. And they get cool chainsaws. But I'm going to stick with the warp spiders. I'm going to be a warp man, zipping in and out, zipping around. Oh, what's that? You left your wallet down at Trev's house? Don't worry, I'll go get it. Back again.
Part of me wants to say the Dark Reapers just to try and restyle those stupid helmets. In fact, I am going to say that. That part's going to win. The Warp Spiders are cool, but I'd want to infiltrate. If it's the Alpha Legion episode, I'm going to infiltrate the Dark Reapers and change their helmets.
You're going to infiltrate their uniform design faction of the Dark Reapers, and
Absolutely.
and,
I've heard
you're
it's
going to be the
place be on
Versace of the
Craft
Dark of the Eldars.
Hey Gillyman, what's behind me balls? McCrag. Ha!
Matt, you weren't just prank calling Gilliman again, were you? I thought we talked about that.
No.
Good. Because we have a lot of work to do. I think Stoney is becoming suspicious of.
Hey guys, what are you up to? Just hanging out, eh?
Nothing, mate.
Nothing, you say, is it?
Yeah, nothing.
Well, you sure do look like just two guys doing nothing, not up to something, not with anything to hide that could be behind here.
Whoa! What are you doing with my White Dwarf collection?
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. My mistake. I would hate to uncover something I shouldn't see, like behind here.
No, that's my DeviantArt painting of furry Russ 69 in a dragon Vulcan.
Don't you guys play coy with me. I know you're up to something. Give me the time off or I'll do something really drastic, like this.
Where did you get that? That's my limited edition ice white albino goblin plushie. I won't give that up without a fight. Come on, Welshie, let's grab him.
Yeah, on 3, 2, 1.
Not so fast, boys. One wrong step and the plushie gets it.
Oh my god, you wouldn't.
That's right, Matt. It's a full pot of null oil. Your new pot of null oil, to be precise, Welshie.
You bastard.
Come too close and the Ipe White limited edition albino goblin plushie gets it. Just something to think about when considering my request for time off.
This is serious, Welshie. I can't have anything happen to my Warhammer plushies.
I know, Matt. We can't carry on like this. We need to get him in the time machine and off to Gilliman ASAP.
Right, so we've heard what I think we can call the facts on the case, like at least the sort of the most agreed upon elements of this. But surely there's a lot of theory as well. As we all know, Warhammer guys, they like to create their own theories on things, and we've been partly responsible for doing that ourselves on this show. So, do we have any theories about the Alpha Legion? What do we think is actually going on here with the evidence at hand?
Well, I guess we've got to think, are we thinking current 40k, M41 or whatever we're in now?
Well, I mean, I guess they've kind of disappeared in recent lore, haven't they? I mean, they like to sort of pop up here and there to sort of occasionally appear in short stories and stuff, but they haven't played like a massive role in recent lore, have they?
Not that I'm aware of. But they did, Matt. I know you were looking at some like actual showdowns they had with Ultramarines, right?
Yeah, I mean that's that. I mean, I guess you could kind of say that's the Horus Heresy, though. That's the end of the Horus Heresy, where they, unlike all of the other forces of chaos, the Alpha Legion don't retreat to the Eye of Terror, which is probably why even 10,000 years later in 40k, as you say, Stoney, they haven't been playing a pivotal frontal role, because they aren't in what was the Eye of Terror with the other forces of chaos. They're kind of off on their own. And yeah, they ended up on near the Eastern Fringe, which is near the Ultramarine 500 Worlds and the Ultima Sigmentum. And yeah, they fight the Ultramarines on a planet where Alpharius is almost kind of, I guess it goes back to the arrogance we spoke about. He basically thought that he could best Gilliman. Alpharius is a bit of a strategist. As we say, their strength is plans within plans. They're all about strategy, slightly different to the Ultramarines. But in the end, actually, Gilliman changes all his tactics. Alpharius thinks that he can beat Gilliman because he knows how the Ultramarines have been fighting during the Horus Heresy, and before he's got the rule book that Gilliman has written and all of the Ultramarine tactics. But Gilliman realizes that and just does whatever comes unnaturally to him. So whenever a decision
really
is
uncharacteristic, right? It's like a surprise attack from Gilliman.
Yeah, they do a massive surprise attack. They beat the shit out of them. Various things happen, and Gilliman and Alpharius, or supposedly it's Alpharius, fight, and Gilliman kills Alpharius.
We've had that before.
Yeah, we have. Gilliman's really happy because they're kind of, Gilliman wants to get, because this is basically the Horus Heresy. It's the end of the Horus Heresy. Gilliman wants to get revenge for not being able to go back to Terra to help defend the Emperor. And they're like the only Chaos forces that haven't gone to the Eye of Terror during the Scouring. But then, because the Ultramarines, in all sense and purpose, defeat the Alpha Legion on this planet, after that, the Alpha Legion realize that they need to split up into war bands to hide from the Imperium, and they kind of divide the Legion up into different units, different war bands, and that's kind of how they've been for 10,000 years. So they're not as warp tainted as other legions because they're not in the Eye of Terror.
I think that's why we don't see them as much, because you can't have really cool models.
Yes.
Like, everyone knows what the perfect Celestial
you say that
like. Everyone knows what the perfect World Eater Death Guard model looks
you
like.
say that, but the amount of people on Instagram painting models that are turning into Alpha Legion, so like Ultramarine Dreadnoughts that are turning into, with the cool that's effect.
Really cool.
That's very popular. Very popular painting
even
effect.
Ultimate Jeff has whole armies that don't look like Alpha Legion that he just says are Alpha Legion. You don't even need to paint them like it. Yeah. That's the wonder of Alpha Legion. Everything's Alpha Legion.
So that kind of what they do directly after the Horus Heresy kind of means that they aren't really front and center of the Chaos stuff. Even 10,000 years later, like, you've got all of the Chaos forces coming out of the Eye of Terror, you got the Black Crusades, and then etc. So they are kind of off doing their own separate thing. And I can't think of any involvement that they've had in all of the new lore. really.
Certainly
I
nothing
mean,
around Cadia that's been big.
No.
There's been nothing around the eye
I mean,
opening,
they're
Nactilus,
kind of
Vigilus.
they're kind of one of those. I mean, I feel like they're definitely going to be expanded on in the future.
Oh,
Like, there's
yeah.
definitely going to be some more stuff happened. Like, I mean, one of the things I noticed when I was doing the research for this was there was like there's a lot of stuff like pre the Alpharius book. And then there's like a heap of stuff post the Alpharius book where it's just kind of like, because it's just a small amount of information. Like when you think about how big the chapter are and stuff, there's hardly anything about them. And even in the Alpharius book, I think that people even say that halfway through, Alpharius, who's telling the story, says that basically he could be just completely making it all up.
Oh yeah.
So it's this kind of like, so I think that it really benefits Games Workshop for them not to have too clear about what's happening. But I do also think that there does seem to become this time every kind of like 5-10 years or so where you need to actually reveal a bit more Alpha Legion lore just to kind of keep people interested and stuff. So I think that there probably will be some involvement with them going forward. I think that they're more interesting in the kind of 40K setting than they are in the 30K setting in a lot of ways, because it is like, if they brought back Omegon or Alpharius or whatever as one of the Chaos Primarchs, that would be really cool. It would be kind of mad, but it would be like it would be very
totally
cool.
agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I was thinking earlier, in my opinion anyway, in so many ways, Alpharius or his twin brother could be like the most obvious Primarch to come out next after Fulgrim comes out at Christmas,
because you least expect it.
Because and why not? But also he might not necessarily be a properly Chaos Primarch. It'd be like a middle of the road.
I was thinking it'd be really cool if, like Cypher, you could play him Loyalist or Chaos.
That's
one model, and you either play him as Alpharius or as Omegon.
That
would be really
cool. And we've kind of talked about that in the past, about this idea of maybe introducing like a neutral faction. Like if they introduced, I don't know, whoever it was we were talking about at the time, the Harad or whatever, but like a faction that came in and could be played as either. And it really feels like that is what the Alpha Legion is. It's very hard to point at any action that they've done and said this was specifically designed to aid Chaos or the Imperium, really.
Yeah. Well, let's hypothesize in. Let's say that it's just straight up Alpharius wanted Horus to win, Omegon wanted the Emperor to win. If they came back now, who do you think is more right? Which of those two prophecies do you think is more what's happening? Are we definitely seeing like 10,000 years of decay in the Imperium? Is this shaping up to be a Chaos slam dunk?
I think that we could say that prophecy has been more or less fulfilled, right? Is that if the Emperor did, well, quote unquote, win, as in, or just defeat Horus, that the decay of mankind would be kind of inevitable. And I think that is sort of holds true.
I think it's definitely decaying. There's no doubt about it. But what they couldn't foresee was Games Workshop wanting to print more money with all the other. So what would they think about, like, because the Cabal didn't pop along and go, so all this might happen, but it's all fucking irrelevant anyway, because the Tyranids are going to consume all biomass in the galaxy.
Well, maybe that's the aliens they were talking about. It'd be really nice for if they got rid of humans. And it'd be like, wouldn't it be great for the alien?
Because that's still a major disjunct with like anything that's really cool like this lore in the Horus Heresy, is that it's completely, anything prophecy is completely ignores what we know about Necrons, Tyranids, even like Votan waking up and having like STCAI stone men.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got to remember as well, is a lot of what we're talking about is information that has supposedly come from either Alpharius or Omegon, whoever it is. So maybe there was more options presented to them by the Cabal that we aren't, that we just don't know about, like that he just hasn't told us or whatever. Because what I think is quite interesting is one of the things about the Alpha Legion is they obviously don't really give a fuck about killing people. Like they're not massive. They're not like the salamanders that are there to like save everybody. Guys. No, and like I mean, we talked earlier about the thing where like Alpharius sneaks into the Golden the throne room and everything, reveals to Valdor that there's this big sort of gap in the security defenses. At one point, when he's like sneaking in, he kills a custodes and nicks his armor.
Yeah.
So, and he doesn't really think anything of it. So, and like I think like we've talked about, maybe Omegon is trying to stop stuff by sending Alpha Legion to fight Alpha Legion or whatever. But actually, that just seems to be the way they work. I don't think they give a fuck about the Alpha Legion, if that makes
it's like
sense.
They're just playing their own game of chess.
Yeah,
and
more or less. The losses don't really seem to almost kind of matter to them. Like, and it's kind of easy to look at the losses as this is them maybe like infighting. But I think that's maybe just the way the Alpha Legion works. Is it is like, no one knows the whole truth. So, and if that means like destroying a couple more Alpha Legion guys, then so be it, kind of thing.
It definitely goes with the twins thing, doesn't it? That like maybe together as one whole being, they'd see the full picture, but even as twins, they only get the half of it and can't work out how it all falls.
Maybe they're not. They haven't done much in 40K just because they're shit. Because
maybe they've done loads, we just don't know anything about it.
I mean,
there's that as well.
Thing, yeah.
But as you said earlier, the Imperium think that they've been destroyed 3 or 4 times in the 10,000 years since the Horus Heresy, and they keep coming back. But I don't know. I mean, maybe their arrogance blinds them to the point where they think they have all these plans within plans, but actually they're just really shit Space Marines, and the Legion's so small because they're just crap.
Well, no, I mean that could definitely be it. Is if arrogance is the key word here, then a lot of the time that does lead to stumbling over yourselves, doesn't it? So I think that is a that is a good point. Maybe you're right, Matt. Maybe they are just fucking. They've got like all this brain power, and they just can never manage to quite engage it to the point where they actually accomplish anything.
What if all of the Alpha Legionaries that are left have just infiltrated other legions, and they're all just waiting for someone else to give them an order?
There's literally like 50% of the Space Wolves are just sat there, just being like, anyone remember what the fucking go word
10,000 years.
We were talking earlier about there's like the bit in the Horus Heresy as you get into the Siege of Terror in the Sol system where these legionaries have been asleep for ages, and they're being reawoken on Earth, and they are following supposed orders and enacting out all this stuff. But for all of these Space Marines that they bury on these planets in preparation for a war that's going to happen there in hundreds of years' time, there must be so many Alpha Legion dotted around the galaxy that just are still asleep, because the war, the war, 8,000, the war's never come, and they're never going to wake up because nobody knows they're there, and the galaxy is a big place, and they've wasted all their resources.
They're just next to a load of Necrons in like the same room, like sleeping on the other side of the room, like in a
got bunk beds.
I also the stuff that I have listened to where they're in the Black Library stuff, and it's talking about them, like I said, about the legionaries waking up as they go towards Terra in the Horus Heresy books. I've been thinking, like, I don't know what I find more boring, the Ultramarines practical, tactical, or whatever they keep saying, or the Alpha Legion plans that just make no sense. And I find
That's
them
why
really.
The symbols are opposites. Why you spin them 180 degrees?
Yeah,
they're so dull.
I think that they must be super annoying to write for or write around, but I also think that they're kind of needed in the story. Like, I definitely remember other things that we've done on here in the past where we're like, oh yeah, there was just a random Alpha Legion ship there that stopped someone from going past or something. It's a good MacGuffin. I
was trying to remember a moment ago when we were talking about what they were up to since the Horus Heresy. Did they come up when we spoke about the Legion of the Damned?
They did, yeah. They blocked. Yeah, you're right. The Legion of the Damned did have something to do with them.
Anyway, we could be making up something here, but
as a literary device point of view, they're great, and I think this is why we don't have a full book series on Alpha Legion, because it would be boring, like you say, Matt. Just like we don't have full books on just Ultramarines. Like, it's dull to have constant switch up. They're necessary to make things happen in other books, be that terrible retcons, be that fixing gaps in storyline, or be that actually interesting, you didn't see this comings. But they have a role in all books as the wild card. And I think that's probably quite important, why they don't have their own definitive lore as a result.
Definitely. And probably why their lore will never be fleshed out in the way like, Blood Angels or something is. It doesn't make sense for it to be like that.
I don't think
so. But what do we think if they were going to come back now in 40k, let's say the next Primarch model drop was Alpharius or Omegon or both, how would we kind of write them back into the current lore?
Yeah, that's a good
question.
Me,
now, I think they've got to come in, and if it depends who it is, right? It depends who it is. If it's Alpharius and he wants Chaos to win very quickly, they've got to come in and they've got to encourage Gilliman to do what we've been shouting for ages and start a civil war against the religious people. What better way to tear the Imperium apart, if that's what you want, than instigate that war? If it's Omegon, it's easy. You just come in and you help Gilliman. You just join the good guys and you slowly turn back the tide.
So do you think that he'd be introduced as a loyalist then?
I mean, I'd love to see him introduced as both. Either or. You take your pick, play him however you want. Yeah,
because I mean, it would also be difficult to write him in as even if he could be an Imperial, it'd be hard to see them teaming up with Ultramarines or something. It'd be hard to see if you were an Ultramarine army, could you take Alpha Legion? It seems sort of unlikely.
Or they just facilitate all of these threads that have been waving in the wind for years now in Games Workshop.
Maybe
you pull this Bile thread about cool thread out. You give Bile the.
Maybe it'd be cool to see them
facilitate everything.
Maybe it'd be cool to see them come in with the Cabal or something. So they had weird alien race or something with them as well, and they kind of start working for this weird alien guys or something.
Yeah, definitely. I think in current 40k lore, I think part of the problem is that the secret keeping, is it this, is it that, is actually being fulfilled by the Dark Angels. Like the need for what's truly going on is filled by characters like Cypher. Like if you read the latest Cypher book, it's like reading an Alpha Legion book. They play that role of secrecy, and this could go either way. The line could still go either way. I feel like there's no place for another one of those currently.
No, sure.
We need a big shift in someone needs to suddenly start winning or losing in order to bring someone that causes that shift back in the other direction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that Games Workshop like to do if they redo something is they quite like to give it an enemy, don't they? Like they might release a box with Blood Angels and Tyranids or something like that. So maybe if the Alpha Legion could be piss off one people more than the other, because it really does seem like the rest of the legions, they don't really think about the Alpha Legion at all. Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of no one's oh, what are the Alpha Legion up to? They're just kind of getting on with it.
Yeah, it's do we need sexy snakes? Let's get Fulgrim. Do we need people to bash down doors? Let's get Angron. Do we need someone to make cool machines? Let's give Perturabo a ring. No one's no one in Chaos wants Sneaky. That's the thing.
But I wondered whether in terms of the Great Crusade, so pre-Horus Heresy, whether in a way, bearing in mind that Alpharius grew up on Terra and everything else we've said about the Legion, just weird. There's something weird about them. They're not really a frontline Legion, but I wonder whether, in a way, they're almost like the Emperor's mutual party, and that they are separate to the other legions because the Emperor has just what am I trying to say? Almost like his balance against other legions that I don't know, and even in the context of the Horus Heresy and 30k and then 40k, they're the Emperor. They're fighting for the Alpha Legion. They're fighting for mankind, but their balance the forces of the Imperium and the Emperor. So they're not like.
I do see what you mean.
Do you see what I mean?
They make less sense in the lore without the Emperor being there. You know, the more I think about it, the more I think it's like the "we are Legion, we are many" kind of thing, and actually maybe they are all Alpharius. I mean, we talked a little bit about that thing about like how they can drink the blood and he basically becomes Alpharius. What if there really is like, you know, what if Alpharius is basically like a perpetual that exists through just having so many of him, like a big swarm of Alpharius essentially, and that maybe the only one that can think even vaguely differently is Omegon. I mean, we talked about them stealing the gene seed. Maybe there is just loads of them. They're just making loads of them, but they will just come out as basically little Alphariuses and Omegons.
What about if they come in with, and being as they are a Dabnet favourite, and Grammaticus has been that character for so long, if we ever finally get the King in Yellow Constantine Valdor return with his winged Space Marines, like if either they've teamed up with them or the response to the overwhelming power of that, like if they come back and help Gilliman and the Imperium start taking the win, then they go against him. Well, maybe if they come back and need help, they join Valdor.
Yeah, that would be a cool little. That would be a cool little kind of storyline, and make them like a nice little foil. If like they were like Valdor Custodes versus Alpha Legion kind of thing, like back in the days where. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll join them.
But also, we know that Alpha Legion, they've got this really kind of tenuous morality where they do have a code, but it's kind of a bit fucked up kind of thing. Like again, like they've just been attacking. They have a big attack. They get right to the Golden Throne Room, and then they turn around and tell Valdor, "You need to shore up security here and get back on that spaceship and fuck off or something."
Well, literally, Cypher's just done that. So that's
So that like
if only one of the Chaos guys had tried any of this stuff, then they'd be
the Imperium can do it. Why can't Chaos? But the idea of scales and balance, like what if the whole purpose of the Alpha Legion and why they were created by the Emperor and their task by the Emperor was to just retain this equilibrium of like, I don't know, if this, we've spoken about the Emperor before, if this is part of his long plan, which it still could be, we've spoken about him being a fifth god of war, the Alpha Legion is like this equilibrium force that can come in on both sides and mean that no one side can overpower the other, and they're kind of there in the background just to enforce the equilibrium.
Conservatives, they're the Tory party, that's why they're in blue.
What's quite interesting is like if their flaw is arrogance, then and what you're saying is true, Matt, then their role is to expose other legions' arrogance as well. Which is quite cool. It's like, I'm the king of arrogance. No one can be more arrogant than me around here.
And since we've been talking about them, and we've spoken a few times about the symbol of the Legion being the three heads, and the conspiracy theories about them being triplets, and that we probably don't think they are because the Emperor knows that they're twins, and he specifically in written Games Workshop lore says that they're twins. But what if the three heads of the Hydra isn't the characters? It is the Cabal has told them two ways, but actually there's the third way, and we don't know what that third way is. Maybe that will come out in the ending of the Siege of Terror.
Yeah,
somehow.
I mean, for me, the big question with Alpha Legion and the Siege of Terror is, and we've suggested this loads when we've got into this, is the who distracts the Emperor question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'd lean towards. I don't want to say it because it's Alpha Legion, but it could be one of them.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
And then even if it's not someone,
heavy money on it, but it could be anything.
All I know is that even if it's not someone from the Alpha Legion, people will say that person was working for the Alpha Legion for the whole time.
I
mean, it looks like it's shaping up to be Loken at this point, but
that's where
it could be Omegon.
Yeah, that's where we've spoken before about how Games Workshop could be using this opportunity to have a model release, or the storyline in 30K is updated with a character and then has a model release, but also because of what's happened in the storyline in 30K, he therefore has a place in the modern lore in 40K, and then you could have a model release in 40K based on what's happened in the Horus Heresy novels. That's where I could see kind of Alpharius being heavily involved with the death of the Emperor, saving him, or otherwise.
Towards it, right? And why I'll be really disappointed if it doesn't go that way. Because
and that's where you could have a model release in 40K of him, of his brother.
Yeah.
Omegon could come back in 40K.
Whatever happens in Siege of Terror, I'll be really disappointed if it doesn't have direct implications in 40K.
Yeah.
And that's why you've got to lean towards it being Alpha Legion based because of John Grammaticus, because of Annuncia.
Yeah.
If all of this has just been like, if you're Dan Abnett and you spent your entire career weaving this story together, and then the two parts of it have no relation, it would just be so weird.
Or at the end of it, they just it's just like they've split the book into 4, whatever now, and they've done the whole thing. And at the end of it, it's just and the Emperor killed Horus. The end, and it was just the same story.
Yeah.
No changes.
Definitely.
But I think that last section we've just done there, we're no closer to anything. It's all bullshit, basically, what we've been saying. That your job as a listener this week is to pick out the facts.
Yeah. But that being said, we all are Alpharius. Each one of us.
No,
I am Alpharius. I am Alpharius. I am Alpharius. I am Alpharius. Shut the book. I'm bored now.
Everyone has been convinced that they're a unique, special little butterfly, and that their insight is invaluable.
That it's time to start a podcast. I need to be more educated on Alpha Legion.
How much does this project cost?
The project is $18,000.
However, this is not just for the 75-hour experience, but also a 12-month in-depth.
You pay $18,000 to spend 3 days getting blasted with videos.
I'm losing money by not investing in this course.
Taking advantage of desperate, vulnerable men.
Most likely when you look at me, you see an
Alpha Legion. I'm downright an Alpha Legion.
He invited me to Thanksgiving at his parents' house. I
Fucked his mom.
and then the whole family clapped.
Okay, Matt, is everything in place?
Yeah, I think so. We just need to.
Who could that be?
I don't know. Come in.
Hi, it's me. It's Emily, Stoney's wife.
Oh, hi. What an unexpected pleasure.
Yeah, we were just sitting here chatting, not up to anything suspicious that would affect you at all.
That's great. I just wanted to drop in and say how cool it is you gave Stoney the time off. It means so much to us both.
Yeah.
It's just been so hard with Stoney to find work because of the back hump. You know, he developed from hunching over a podcast keyboard, all the editor's lung he got from all them years down the editing pit.
Yeah, sure.
Editing lung?
Yeah, that's right. And of course there's the medical bills for Rex, our 3-legged dog with psoriasis.
Oh no, really?
3-legged dog? I don't remember you guys having a dog.
Yes, that's right. It's just so nice to know Stoney has colleagues as generous as you guys to help him with all his issues.
Oh no, Matt. I can't go through with it. It's too sad. Stoney's pathetic. What will become of poor Emily if we send him to the future to become a space marine for a bit?
Oh no, please don't do that.
Don't worry, Emily. We have heard your story and it has melted our frosty hearts. We won't send Stoney to the future to become a space marine, will we, Matt?
Oh, I don't know, Welshie. What would the Emperor do? She may have melted your frosty heart, but I remain cold as ice. Matak!
Matt, what the fuck? You just knocked out a pregnant woman.
That's no woman. It's a man!
And not just any man, it's Stoney.
That's right, it's me. And I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you pesky podcast hosts.
You slippery bastard. You mean you weren't expecting a baby at all?
Oh, I'm expecting all right. It was an immaculate conception after a sexy dream I had about Slanesh giving me a rim job.
You deceiving swine. Quick, Matt, bung him in the machine.
Have at me!
Oh my god, Welshie! That scuffle ripped off your face? Oh wait, no. Not your face. Is that a mask? Are those pointy ears?
What? Oh no, not my terrible secret.
Welchie, what's going on here?
Okay, you've got me. I've been trying to hide it all my life, but I'm an Eldar, okay? I tried to contain it. I tried to fight it, but I just can't. I'm a goddamn pointy-eared Eldar, all right?
Oh my god.
Oh, mate.
Well, if Welshie's an Eldar, and I'm not my wife, but rather a human man impregnated with a bum baby by Slanesh, then where does this leave us? Are you still going to shove me in the time machine?
I don't know, guys. All this petty squabbling, bickering. Can't you see it's breaking us apart? And if there is one thing we have learned from this episode, it is that distrust is a weapon. It doesn't matter who is Eldar and who was making all them prank calls. We should just put this all behind us and just get back on with our show, right? I reckon me and Welshie can do the editing. You go and birth your Slaneshi butt baby, Stoney. We got you, bud.
Yeah, Stoney, we got you. I know what it's like to have Slanesh inside me too. That was a close one though, right, guys?
It sure was. But I guess that this just goes to show that no matter who you are on the outside, you can always find friends to love. Oh shit, is that an aliens invented the iPhone book made of weed?
No, Stoney, don't!
No!
Time machine activate.
Well, boys, looked like you walked right into my trap.
Roberto Gilliman?
That's my name. Don't wear it out. I've known from the start you guys would do this. I had it all in my codex. So thanks for the new recruit. I can't promise not to get him shot to pieces by a series of Tau heavy artillery. Who knows? I might even send him back to you one of these days. So long, suckers.
Gilliman, you sly cunt. What about the laptop you promised us to keep the show going whilst Stoney's away? It's the least you could do.
That's right, Gilliman. A deal is a deal.
Fine, take the piffling laptop and Snowball Mike. I even had one of my servitors program a Stoney simulator on it.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Large Blast Podcast.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a war to win.
Well, there you go, Matt. Guess it's just you and me for now.
Don't worry, Welshie, we got this. You know, Gilliman, he wasn't like how I expected him to be.
I know what you mean. He seemed more like evil and spy-like than I was expecting him to be.
And he had a voice like Skeletor, which was strange. He didn't sound like that on the phone. You don't think he was...
No, couldn't have been. Could it?